development goals. It is in occasions like this we get opportunities to test our knowledge and understanding. We look forward to get an exposure about what the best of the brains think about this very dynamic issue. Today we have with us as resource persons Dr. Namjae Cho, Professor, School of Business Management, Hanyang University, Seoul, South Korea. Dr. Rajesh Kothari, Vice Chancellor, ICFI University, Jaipur, and Mr. Prabhat Manocha, Associate Director, Government of India, South Asia, IBM India Private Limited. The chairpersons of the session are Dr. Rajiv Shukla, Directors, Sri Vaishnav School of Management, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, and Dr. Anand Rajawat, Director, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Information Technology, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. Proceeding towards the session, first let us know about our chairpersons. We are honored to have with us Dr. Rajiv Shukla and Dr. Anand Rajawat. Dr. Rajiv Kumar Shukla is BE, MTech, MBA, and PhD in Management. He is presently working as the Director, Sri Vaishnav School of Management, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, and as Coordinator, Sri Vaishnav Institute of Commerce, Indore. He has rich blend of experience in industries and academics. He extended his services in product management, quality control, and operations management to the industrial world for 15 years. He started his career as process engineer at Bresem Industries Limited and then worked as manager polyester chips plant at Sri Synthetics Limited, Ujjain. He is a certified energy manager and energy auditor from BEE, that is Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power, Government of India. 8 candidates have been awarded PhD in management under his supervision from Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, and 6 candidates are presently registered for PhD. He is Chairman Board of Studies, Management and Member Board of Management, Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. He also organized and designed FDP, MDP, and AICT sponsored national conferences and guided over 200 research projects to MBA students. He has quality and empirical research papers to his credit. He has attended over 75 seminars, workshops, conferences, and has published more than 110 research papers. He presented research papers and chaired technical sessions at IMT Dubai, University of Kelnia, Colombo, and in Maldives. His current research interest is in retail management, consumer behavior, and operations management. Now, let me take the opportunity to introduce our second chairperson. Dr. Anand Rajawat is Professor of Computer Science and Engineering Department and Director of Sri Vaishnav Institute of Information Technology of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. He has been engaged in teaching, research, training, and consultancy for the last 20 years. He obtained PhD in the Faculty of Computer Engineering in the field of software engineering and ME in computer engineering with specialization in software engineering from Devi Ahilya Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. Currently, he has been also working as visiting faculty in St. Cloud State University, Minnesota, USA. Besides undertaking consultancy assignments, he has authored and co-authored more than 102 publications. He has been on the panel of reviewers of a number of national and international journals. He has also supervised 28 ME and MTech dissertations. He has attended more than 100 certification course, training workshops, and faculty development programs conducted by leading multinational and national IT companies. Dr. Anand Rajawat was awarded Dronacharya Award by IBM in 2008 and 2009 for development and deployment of best research project. Dr. Anand Rajawat has been associated with various professional bodies like Computer Society of India, Indian Society of Internet, ACM, and IEEE. He has been the chairman of Board of Studies of Computer Science and Engineering, Information Technology and Computer Applications of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. He has been the member of governing body of Sri Vaishnav Institute of Technology and Science, Indore. He has been the member of Board of Management, Academic Council, and Faculty of Studies at Sri Vaishnav Vidyapeeth Vishwavidyalaya, Indore. He has been coordinating many projects related to IT infrastructure, networking, software licensing, and deployment of ERP system for different institutes of Sri Vaishnav Group Indore. He has been providing consultancy services to many IT companies and educational institutes, including Galaxy Weblinks Private Limited Indore, MathMagics Private Limited Devas, HS Tech Private Limited Indore, ITI Mansoor, ITI Manpur, and ITI Indore Women's for Skill Development of ITI faculty, staff, and students. Provided consultancy for the setup of computer labs, networking, and other IT infrastructures and developments. He was invited by the St. Cloud State University, Minnesota, USA, as resource person for 3 weeks to deliver sessions on latest trends of information technology in 2019. His area of interests are data science, big data analytics, software engineering, object-oriented analysis and design, computer organization, advanced computer architecture, database management system, re-engineering, and risk management. Now, I would like to introduce our eminent speakers of the session. Dr. Namjae Cho is the professor of MIS at School of Business, Hanyang University. He received a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering from Seoul National University in 1982, master's in management science from Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology in 1984, and doctoral degree in MIS from Boston University, USA, 1993. He has published research papers in industrial management and data systems, Asia Pacific Management Review, International Journal of Information Technology and Decision Making, International Journal of Management Digest, Management Insight, Journal of Contemporary Management, etc. His research interests include IT planning, analysis of IT impacts, strategic alignment between IT and business, IT governance, e-business strategy, knowledge management, and industrial policy. He got Best Paper Award International Conference on Business and Information in 2008 and 2005, and the Society of Digital Policy and Management from 2005 to 2007. He got Best Paper Award and Global Excellence Award in International Conference on Global Business and Technology and International Conference on Society for Global Business and Economic Development in 2007. His academic services are President of Korea MIS Society 2016 to present. He's the Editor-in-Chief of Asian Journal of Information and Communication from 2016 till present. His program co-chair in International Conference on Business and Information from 2005 to 2010. He has been co-chair in International Conference on IT Application and Management from 2008 to 2009. He has been the organizing committee chair in International Conference on Global Business and Economic Development 2005. Is also board of editor in International Journal of Operations and Quantitative Management, the International Journal of Management Digest, Journal of Information Technology, Application and Management, and Information System Review. Thank you, sir. Now, I would request Dr. Paromita to introduce our other two speakers. Over to you, Paromita, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. So our next speaker of this session is Dr. Rajesh Kothari, Vice Chancellor, ICFAI University, Jaipur. Professor Rajesh Kothari has more than 37 years of teaching, training, research, and consulting experience. He has supervised more than 35 PhD doctoral students and published many research papers of national and international review, and also published 6 books from international publishers like Sage, Macmillan, Business World, and many more. He has executed numerous consulting assignments sponsored by SIDBI, ICFI, UTI ICM, and many. Apart from this, Professor Kothari has also been associated as subject expert with Himachal Pradesh Public Service Commission, Rajasthan Public Service Commission, Screening Committee for Private Universities in the state of Rajasthan, Member Executive Committee, Rajasthan Energy Development Agency, Government of Rajasthan, Jaipur. He has also been advisor to eminent groups and professional bodies like JKD Pearl India Private Limited, Mewar University, Chittorgarh, Narayan Group Jaipur advisor, MN Group of Institutions Bikaner, RBPA Jaipur, Autolit Industries Private Limited Jaipur, Saraswati Exports Jaipur, ICFI, Nafa Nuksan, Dalal Street Journal Autolit Group of Industries Jaipur. We welcome you, sir. Now I would like to introduce our third speaker of the session, Mr. Prabhat Manocha, Associate Director, Government India, South Asia, IBM India Private Limited. Sri Prabhat Manocha works with government agencies to conceptualize, position, and deliver complex solutions to help them deal with today's challenges. He has more than 25 years of experiences across working with government and corporate sectors across technologies like cognitive, cloud, smarter cities, IoT, big data, security, and blockchain initiatives. He had worked on empanelment of IBM's public cloud with Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India. And this has helped change government's cloud adoption behavior. He has also led to roll out of IBM Career Aligned certification courses as a part of AP Skill academic program covering India, South Asia, Korea, Asian, and Australia, New Zealand. He has experience in managing international and multicultural teams. Prior to joining IBM, he has driven complex cross-geo projects for Europe and other countries. He has been on the technical evaluation board for various proposals, solutions, and deployment models. Sri Prabhat is a global mentor and holds multiple technology certifications, including the prestigious IBM Platinum Badge for Government Industry Insights and Solutions in 2018. He has also represented IBM in a variety of external forums, conferences, and events to promote through leadership and discussion on adoption of newer technology trends. We welcome you, sir. Now I hand over the session to Dr. Rajiv Shukla to give the opening remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Rupa and Dr. Pramita, for introducing our guest. We welcome our learned resource persons, Dr. Namji Cho, Professor, School of Business Management, Anyang University, Seoul, South Korea, Dr. Rajesh Kothari, Vice Chancellor, ICFI University, Jaipur, Dr. Prabhat Manocha, Associate Director, IBM India Private Limited, South Asia, as Speaker of Plenary Session 1 in a multidisciplinary international congress on good practices and capacity building for sustainable development goals. As we know, sustainable development goals is a set of 17 social, environmental, economic, and technological goals, commonly known as SDG 17. It is a shared framework and a shared vision for countries to align policies in collaborative way to promote sustainable development across borders. A successful sustainable development agenda requires partnership between governments, the private sector, and civil society. So, inclusive partnership built upon a shared vision and shared goals that place people and the planet at the center are needed at the global, regional, national, and local level. These 17 ambitious goals have complex challenges to address. Climate change is a global phenomenon. Similarly, innovation cannot happen without universities and scientists, and certainly not without exchange of knowledge across continents. Gender equality is as much about communities as it is about legal instruments. If pandemic like COVID-19 is a global phenomenon, then their solutions need to be addressed globally. As in the opening remark, Vice Chancellor Professor Dhar has shared that COVID-19 pandemic has adversely impacted operations around the world and progress towards the SDGs. It has a disproportionate effect on the most vulnerable, marginalized communities and least developed countries due to fragile health system, limited social protection coverage, limited financial and other resources, vulnerability to shocks and dependence on international trade, whereas the economic growth of developed countries have suffered more than in comparison to the least developed countries. The pandemic is expected to push 71 million people back into extreme poverty. Underemployment and unemployment from the crisis threaten the already 1.6 billion vulnerable workers, half of the global workforce in the informal economy. These issues need to be addressed. The recovery from the pandemic must be reshaped to align with the SDGs at all levels from the local to global. At the same time, India has to play an important role in achievement of SDGs. The significance of India's role towards achievement of SDGs can be highlighted with the projection that 50% of the delivery of the global goals will come from progress made in India. It has been also estimated that India has the potential for $1 trillion worth of business opportunities and 72 million job opportunities by 2030 for companies working in the sustainable development space, especially in sectors such as food and agriculture, energy, construction, and healthcare. With these opening remarks, now first I would like to invite Dr. Namje Cho, Professor at the School of Business Management and Young University, Seoul, to address the audience.
Thank you for inviting me to Sanmantrana.
Welcome, sir.
I'm very glad to participating in this wonderful Congress. I prepared some slide rather than watching my face for 15 minutes. I think it is better to share some of the slide. And because I was not given any specific research topic for this talk, I prepared some introduction
I think there is some network issue.
Yes,
Madam? Yeah.
it appears to be some network issue over there.
So there is network issue at Namje sir's end.
So can we invite Dr. Rajesh Kothari, sir?
So should we wait for 1 minute? He's back. Namje sir, you are please unmute yourself.
Okay,
Yeah, okay, please.
turned on my microphone again. Yeah, the network was not quite stable shortly. Can you? All right. I'd like to share my slide. Can you now see the slide?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, wonderful. I was really surprised that the rapporteur knew a lot about myself, even more than myself. Yeah, I got my engineering degree in my bachelor, management science, in master's, and PhD in management information systems from business school. First, let's go for the introduction about the two countries, India and Korea. We have 40 years of formal diplomatic interaction, and economic relationship is growing very fast. And the two countries signed on SEPA free trading partnership. The distance between, I assume that my talk, most of the audience of my talk is going to be the young students. Is that okay? Not research. I guess most of the audiences are master, PhD, or young students, the distance between Korea and India is 5,000 kilometers only. And it takes 8 hours roughly by direct flight. And the time difference is 3.5 hours. So by the time in Korea is close to 3 o'clock p.m. And we know that there are over 2,000 years of cultural influence. About 2,000 years ago, there was a very ancient dynasty called the Shilla dynasty. And one of the king of Shilla dynasty was visited by a lady from India. And she was a prince of one country in India. And she became the queen of Shilla dynasty. So still, a group of people whose first family name is Kim, a branch of Kim, think that one of their grandmother is from India. Did you know that? And if I see the history of Korea briefly, we have Korean counting of years, which is called Dangi. This year is 4,421 Dangi. That means the formal history of Korea is 4,421 years. The Korean language is a phonetic language, Korean, which is totally different from Chinese language or Japanese language. Chinese and Japanese language is more like ideographic language. And Korean language, on the other hand, is a phonetic language. That means we have alphabets. We have vowels and consonants, very similar to English language. So we combine vowels and consonant to make words. So many international people, they quickly capture the characters of Korean language, and in just one day, they start to read what is written on the streets in Korea. And in the recent history, Korea was occupied by Japan in 1910. And in 1919, there was a massive non-violent march similar to the one led by Mahatma Gandhi. But this one was not very successful. So a lot of people were killed, but we had to wait until 1945 to be independent again. And immediately after the independence, the Korean peninsula divided into two parts, North and South. North Korea was had an affiliation to Soviet Union, and the southern part with the United States of America. And only after 5 years, Korean War was broke out. And this war was initiated by North Korea. And 36 countries from United Nations joined South Korea, including India. And it was the largest war after World War II. During the 3 years, about 4 million people died or injured. And for the 3 years, almost all the production infrastructures like roadways, highways, and factories were destroyed. So the whole Korea had to start all over again from the scratch. So South Korea only started to pursue a development from 1962, which is the year we launched a 5-year economic development, a series of 5-year economic development plan. By the time we begin the plan, the per capita income was $110, which was lower than Gabon of Africa, and it was poorest in Asia. But after we pursue economic development plan, including a civil movement called New Village Movement, the development and nationwide reconstruction has begun. So in the bottom, you will see the picture immediately after the Korean War. Everything was destroyed. And then the New Village Movement, a lot of people voluntarily joined to rebuild roadways and the factories in 1970s, 80s, and 90s. So since then, Korea grew very fast. So it passed up Philippines by 1970, which had per capita income of $300. And by 1980, she passed up Malaysia in per capita income, reached per capita income 1,700. And by 1990, the per capita income reached $6,500. And by 2005, it passed up Taiwan, and the per capita income reached 18,000. And according to recent statistics, 2019 per capita income reached $34,170. Now, current state of Korea, South Korea, is we have a population of 50 million, which is just one little fragment compared to India. And the amount of international trade is ranked 6th among all the countries in the world. And Korea is known for the use of extensive information and digital technology. And one of the index was e-government service, judged by OECD committee. And Korea ranked #1 in e-government service provision. And in terms of culture and sports, by 1988, we successfully hosted the Asian Game. And by 2000, we hosted the Olympic Game, and 2002, World Cup Soccer Game. So, in the world of sports, some of the most popular sports we enjoy include baseball, soccer, and we had good winter sports, including figure skating. She received a gold medal for 3 consecutive Olympic Games, and golf. And K-pop has been enjoyed by many young people in different countries. And the recent famous K-pop stars include BTS and NCT and Twice. Young people may know. And these are the recent pictures of downtown Seoul. And we have some technology companies include Samsung, which is largest now, and LG Corporation, and Hyundai Automobile, and SK Group. SK is more famous for their telecommunications and natural resources. NCSoft, you may not know, but young people know because it is computer game company. And Hanjin is a logistics company. Some of you may know Line, which is a social network service company. And NCSoft is another software company focusing on computer games. And POSCO is a steel production company. I think you may know POSCO because POSCO has some extensive business with India also. Yeah, there are, these are some of the companies I included in this slide. But we are still struggling with many problems in social, economic, political, and environmental issues. For example, like in social issues, Korea is aging very fast, as you can see from this graph. So overall Korea is getting old very fast. So that creates a big issue in Korea. In terms of economics, we have some digital divide and economic divide issue as almost all the countries in the world. And we have political issues, the conflict between North and South Korea. And Korea is surrounded by China, Japan, Russia, and the US is very far away, but actually politically very close to Korea. So the relationship among these international, powers is has always been a very sensitive issue to Korea. And there is environmental issues like fast economic growth always includes some pollution issues. Now the pollution issue inside Korea is getting better now, but a lot of factories, as far as I know, more than 20,000 factories are located on the east border, east shore of China, and that affects Korea also. And there is a political issue, conflict among the people in political parties. And as in many countries, the governments try to solve a problem, but they tend to create more problems than they solve. So, so that happens. And we are trying to introduce more alternative sources of energy like solar, and try to move away from fossil fuel electric power. And this kind of a brief background of the country is correlated to the development of my university, which is Hanyang University. It was established in 1939 as an engineering college. 1939, as you can imagine, it was 6 years before the independence. So that time, the whole Japanese imperialism was quite tight in terms of control. So they did not open up many technology education to Korean people. So Korean people are supposed to spend more time up until high school to learn Japanese language, Japanese culture, etc. So the founder of this university had a vision that sooner or later the country is going to be independent. Then we will need more engineers and technicians to rebuild the country. So he established this university, and now the university, as you can see, is 82 years old and grew into a comprehensive university with two separate campuses. One inside Seoul, the other is outside Seoul toward the west. And in Seoul, we have 14 faculties, and in the second campus, we have 7 faculties. The total number of students is roughly about 32,000, and we have 1,200 full-time PhD professors, and we have 500 international affiliations. Most of these international affiliations were made for the last 30, 40 years. And some point on Hanyang University is it was ranked highest in terms of national brand ranking among universities, and it was ranked number 1 in terms of the number of CEOs in Korea. And this picture on the left is the building at the beginning of the university, and on the right is the headquarters building. Still, we preserve this building. And Hanyang University now, this is picture of the university. On the left up is headquarters of the university and the university museum. And this is one scene of a campus life. We have many K-pop stars grew out of the university. The movie stars, singers, and actors. Maybe she is senior to them. Maybe some of you know her. And this is the scene of the business school. And there is my office. My office in the 6th floor and at the corner. So I have a very good view of the garden. And this is Future Mobility Research Center. This big building focuses on research on future mobility in terms of automobile, in terms of urban aviation or self-driving automobile, etc. This building was donated by Hyundai Automobile because the chairman, former chairman, the father of current chairman is actually, he is the CEO, and the company is currently led by his son. The founder and CEO of the Hyundai Automobile Company is an alumni of Hanyang University also. And we have a medical center and school for the medicine. And this is Institute of Technology. And this is the second campus. And this is the student guest house of the second campus. The guest house of the second campus is bigger because most of the students are staying in the guest house because it is away outside of Seoul. And this is a business and economics garden. That means this garden is surrounded by economics faculty and school for the law and business school. And this one is Hanyang Cyber University. And this is a metro station. The metro station, Hanyang University has a very unique metro accessibility because metro station is inside the campus. So the name of the metro station is Hanyang University Station. And I established international MBA about 6 years ago. And we have 2 international MBA programs. One is Korea Asia Business Studies MBA, which teach the fundamental courses of MBA and also teach some issues in Korea and Asian countries. And the other is Global Business Management MBA. And these are some of the pictures. We have visited companies like software companies, broadcasting companies, and production companies, etc. As you can see from these pictures, we have many diversity in terms of the nationality of the students. We have students from Chile, China, France, Germany, Netherlands, Denmark, Estonia, Spain, Canada, Indonesia, Mexico, Panama, Nepal, the USA, Vietnam, Russia, Ukraine, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Morocco, Yemen, Brazil, Italy, Pakistan, Hong Kong, Turkey, Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Colombia. This one picture, I had a dinner with my students. He's from Estonia, he's from Denmark, she's from Russia, and she's from Morocco. She's from Indonesia, and she's from Sweden, and she's from Senegal. Oh, I skipped out Senegal. And this man is from Colombia. Where is India? we have no Indian students yet, but suddenly from just 2-3 months ago, I am receiving a lot of mail from Indian students. That means we are recognized by Indian students. That means we are going in the right way. And ITAM International Conference is a conference I established about 10 years ago. I am leading this conference together with my colleagues, not only from my university, but also from other universities in Korea and other universities in mostly Asian countries. And we had conferences in Indonesia, Turkey, and Thailand, Vietnam, Nepal, Japan, China, this is China, and France, Spain, of course, Korea, Taiwan, and Kenya. How about India? Yeah, we had the conference in India in 2011, hosted by Professor Upinder Da, while he was Vice Chancellor of JKLU of Jaipur. We had, this one was one of the largest gathering of scholars from different parts of the world. You can see, you can find Professor Upinder Da there, right? Professor Santoshi was there. Santoshi Langnika is there. Where is Professor Santosh Dar? Maybe somewhere. There? Maybe. And actually,
I am also part of this large gathering in December 2011.
right, right.
Green, I am standing in the green sari.
Ah, I see. And I had one more conference in India, which was just last year, 2020. I had a conference. We had a conference in the southern part of India, which is Cochin, Kerala. In a small school, Rajgiri Business School. Yeah. How about Indore? Yeah. Do I know Indore? Yes, I've been there. I've been Indore 4 years ago. And you can find Professor Santosh Dar there. And Professor Upinder Da. Yeah, I enjoyed my visit to SBBB 4 years ago. So I love India, the people, the food, culture, and history. But most of all, I love its potential. I believe that India has the strongest potential to make the age of India the coming age. And as everybody knows, India has a large number of highly educated young population, and it has a largest number of English-speaking engineers and human resources. And I know that India has a good cultural tradition, that emphasize sincerity and integrity. And Indian people put a high value on learning, teaching, and thinking. I heard also that there is a fierce and dynamic competition inside the country that is a tough reality for young people, but that is good for the country. I recently, my friend, Professor Kanesh Raja from United Kingdom sent me one video of Jeff Bezos, the chairman of Amazon company, visited India and delivered a talk. And he mentioned, he also mentioned these English-speaking human resources, education, etc. But I think the potential of India is not just the outcome which has emerged recently. India has a very long history on the learning education from the ancient times, and they have inherited insight on creativity that is reflected in Hindu legend. As you know, creativity. I am currently writing a book on design thinking and creativity, and I mentioned that Indian, gods, actually not just the gods, but also a philosophy behind it. For any creation, the creation is led by Lord Brahma, right? And Lord Brahma's creative work begins only when there is a destruction by Lord Shiva. That means creation, requires destruction, and the most important destruction today is the destruction of our prejudice, preconception, your definition of your potential, and for young people, your limited dream. You have to destroy it and then rebuild it. For the creation of Brahma, he needs a partner, right? And Brahma's partner is Saraswati. And Saraswati is the god of knowledge, learning, and wisdom. That means creativity cannot be done from nothing. All creative work should be based on a lot of effort in learning. And this legend is 5,000 years, 4,000, 5,000 years old. That means there was a deep insight on the logic of creativity engraved in the gene of Indian culture. And I'm honored because I am currently an adjunct professor to IIT Roorkee. And Sanmantrana is laying ground of convergence across science, technology, social science, and humanities. These days, the convergence is more emphasized than individual developments of these disciplines. So many of the US research centers and also in Korea, in my university also, we have a faculty of fusion and convergence. So to solve the problems and to invent new products, we need collaboration among these disciplines. And Sanmantrana facilitates interdisciplinary communication and research. To do that, all the students and faculties need to get familiar to the language of the other discipline, and also the research methods which is employed by different disciplines. Research approaches in anthropology and business school, sociology, and psychology are all different, and these approaches are different from engineering and science also. But there are surely the fundamental concepts and philosophies shared. So we can talk among the disciplines, and that can be done by the researchers and professors, but also it can be practiced by young students in bachelor's program also. And Sanmantrana boosts success and development of historical heritage on abstract thinking and provoke creative mind required for the future economy. The future economy, most of the repeated work that can be done by machine will be done by machine. So we expect humans in our next generation will focus more on creative job. And we have to grow the students, not only academic understandings, but also grow them practical intelligence. Practical intelligence is a terminology coined up by I forgot his name. Practical intelligence. My goodness. He is a psychology professor of Yale University. He suggested tri-part intelligence that replace intellectual quotient, which was successful intelligence, practical intelligence, etc. Anyway, practical intelligence does not grow from the scientific training only. Practical intelligence should be trained with the aim to grow practical intelligence. Anyway, most of all, the students of Indian colleges, you have good teachers, good leaders, like professors of SBBB and Professor Pindil Da. So you follow them and grow your potential. And Sanmantrana for the future, I want you push it further into global effort. Extended collaboration, communication across culture is important. There are diverse cultures in the world. I know many Indian people working in the European countries and everywhere in the world. I met them. I have many friends, but to my young students, I encourage you to open your eyes toward the world. India is a big country, but Asia is bigger, and the world is even bigger. And you're young. So go global. The second, we need social innovation. Social innovation, as I find, that is going to be discussed a lot during this Sanmantrana conference. People and problems left out should not be ignored. So I always, whenever I visit India, that one thing that I do not feel comfortable is, the poor people on the street and the dirty trash is on the street. And that is an important problem you have to solve one day, and it is being solved. Recently, I read one story of a very smart person. He is from a big city of India, and he was a very smart entrepreneur. He wanted to help the poor people on the street, but he did not. He wanted to give out food to these people, but he did not give out food to these people for free. He said that if you bring the trash from the street, I will give you food. So he made people collect the trash on the street and bring it. And then he provided food. And then after collecting all the trash, he connected these resources to recycling companies, which has technology to recycle these trashes and plastics, everything. So he was a very smart man. He solved social problems, attempted to help people, and he connected it to business innovation. This is the kind of innovation we want to see more in the future. So we have to let our students are smart. We have to let educated intelligence apply to every part of society, and they have to act with courage. That's my message. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the conference, and we are with you.
Thanks, Dr. Namji.
Thank you.
Actually, we have shared a strong relationship between this India and Korea, and also we have virtually traveled to Korea through your presentation. You have rightly pointed that Brahma is there as known as a creator in India mythology, and Shiva is a destroyer or transformer. But in between these, Vishnu is also there, who is known for the sustenance. So, and we are talking about the sustainability. So, from that creator and destroyer, we have to sustain the world.
That's correct.
And for that, we, God Vishnu is there for sustenance. Thank you once again, Dr. Namje Cho. And with this word now, I would like to invite Dr. Rajesh Kothari, Vice Chancellor, ICFI University, Jaipur, to address the gathering. Yes, you are welcome, Dr.
Thank
Rajesh.
you. At the outset, I express my deep sense of gratitude and thanks to Professor Upinder Dhar, Madam Santosh Dhar. I think they are part of my extended family. Now, though they were in Jaipur, now they are happily in Indore. So where they are, let them remain happy. At least I'm not going to disturb them because I don't come to Indore frequently. I also express my thanks to Dr. Namrata Jain and Dr. the Rupa Shinde, and also to Dr. Namje Cho from South Korea. Thank you, Dr. Cho, for having traveled to South Korea while being at Jaipur only. And your trip was so interesting. The entire world is fighting for the lesser number of tourists. So you made me to visit what the university and how you're going to do. Great, good. You have mentioned about the old ties and good ties between Korea and India. At least we owe a lot to you, and you also a lot to us, in the sense that one of our Indian queen used to be the ruler at your Korea. That kind of legacy we enjoy together, the culture wealth that we enjoy together. And the best part of the story is, even today, when I look to the Korea, South Korea especially, we look that India has a formidable economic partner. When I bought my first car, Dr. Cho, let me say happily, it was Centro made by Hyundai only. So that way, we look at Korea, South Korea, and you got independence 1945, you got 1947, yet you're far ahead of us in terms of electronics, car, and product consumer goods, etc., etc. So it all goes to the system that you have, the kind of interface that you have with the different part of society, and same thing we are going to have. Now, coming to this conference, I must compliment the organizers for having thought of such a beautiful idea of thinking of good practice, sustainable development, and what are we going to do. Now, understand, Indian culture starts, someone say 5,000 years back and some say this time. But however, for last 20 years have been very, very eventful for Indian economy as concerned, especially the last year when we have seen the unprecedented pandemic, and because of good practice and because of probably the good practice at heart, probably India turns out to be very few countries in the world who could control pandemic successfully. And needless to say, soon we are going to open the economy for the rest of the world soon, because this is what the practice that we have. There are two things that make me to remind. One, you talk about economic development, and the other talk about sustainable development. One. But I believe in India, the concept of economic development linked to the concept of social development also. We're just not driven by money alone, but we are driven by social values, ethos, and they are going to govern our practices in the country as such. Even in today, though there happens to be sharp rise in nucleus family, emergence of nucleus family in the concept, yet we are part and parcel of the society. That means we still believe some joints are strong in the family, and therefore most of Indians believe to belonging to a family, not to individuals. Why? Because in India, even today, despite so many economic development, society is a reality and individual is a myth. I don't think my own way. I think in terms of my family, my brother, my sister, my uncle, my auntie, because this is what is the life that we are at, we lead in India. Now, when you look at the good practice, when you look at the good practice, I ask, what is a good practice and from where do we learn? If I take the example of Indian society, if I take the example of Indian family, the good practice we learn, not anywhere else, not in a school, not in college, not in university, but from the home. Our home is a complete example of how good we manage the crisis, how good we manage our resources. One. And Dr. Cho, well, I invite you to visit an Indian family and meet the key figure in the family, and the key figure in the family is the mother and the wife. And the way they manages their resources, clear, they will never let you down in front of anyone. Hats off to the womenhood of India, because they teach us. And from where they are going to learn? They are going to learn from her mother, and she has learned from her mother. So in India, the matriarch turns out to be the key figure so far good practices are concerned. Now, what I learn at home will be taken to the next level at my formal structure, be it school, be it college, be it university. A good practice means what? That not only I should focus on my own objectives, on my own goal, on my own achievement. The good practice means I must also take care of the well-being of those who are around us. In India, there used to be a culture. Now the culture is being revived. Suppose a child is born. Clear. Now, in some of the places in Rajasthan, say one place is somewhere, this is near Rasaman. Now, a new practice has come up. What they done? If a child is born, the family will plant 100 new trees. After all, you'll all agree, the kind of development that we are facing through is destroying the what? The natural air, creating pollutions, creating the city life turns out to be more of, you can say, the havoc. Look at Delhi. The people say it's a gas chamber. Look at Bombay, crowded, no good environment is there. So this kind of good practices are going to start at the grassroots. What I've given an example that in a village of Rajasthan, if a child is born, 100 trees you have to implant. And not only you have to implant and plant one, you have to nurture and see to it that they grow very well. That is what is a good practice. Good practice to me is what? When we are able to strike balance between individual ambition with social well-being and social good. In India, we are not purely driven by GDP factor. We are not even purely driven by per capita income, but we are driven by social growth index. Suppose you will have seen India is a country where number of riches have increased manifold. Perhaps they are the second and third largest when the growth number is concerned worldwide. At the same time, the number of persons who have come up over and above the poverty line have also increased manifold. So that is what. So I repeat, good practice would simply mean when you strike a balance between my desire, my ambition with what is good for the society. So societal development, societal well-being, and society happiness is more important to us as compared to individual growth. We are not defying, nor we are denying that there should not be individual growth, but individual growth at what cost? That has to be seen. More importantly, we rightly say, yes, we rightly say that India is a young country as compared to a country called South Korea. Still, we got 60% of population within the age group of what I can say, the age group which is ready to change, which is ready to experiment, which is ready to explore. And Dr. Cho, would you believe the entire Silicon Valley is governed by young Indians only? That shows how we have been able to capitalize our strength, how we have been able to capitalize our intellectual property, and we turns out to be, and we turn out to be one of the finest and most demanding, I can say, the supplier of techno brains to the worldwide. Nevertheless, we feel when I look at back home, the kind of education system that we are going to have in the India may require a lot of changes that we are not debating at this point of time. You are debating how can we develop this? How can we have this sustainable development? Clear? Now, India still belongs to the villages, the rural economy. And and one fact which I like to brought to the notice of all my esteemed colleagues, the kind of diseases that we have in urban India, they are perhaps not visible in rural India. And when I say the diseases, illness, I'm referring to lifestyle related one, like diabetes, clear, like blood pressure, like tension, like stress, etc., etc., etc. Clear. So issue that we are going to talk about is the sustainable development also mean how good you are going to take care of social good, how good you are going to take care of well-being of not only the working but also the society as a whole. And let me say this with all kind of information by command. The lifestyle related disease, or you can say the disease that I have mentioned, are rarely exist in those settings because they have some outlet. The recent studies suggest, say for example, Dr. Cho will agree with me, we had to go for stringent lockdown in the country, and because that stringency, the advantage is we could recover from pandemic in the shortest possible time. But if India is a country where we have reported the least casualty rate when you compare with the size of populations and kind of healthcare system that we have. Our healthcare system may not be as good as elsewhere in the developed Western world. Nevertheless, the casualty rate turns out to be bare minimum only. The recovery rate has crossed more than 95%. That suggests that we know what is a good practice, what is sustainable development, and how can we explore, how can we take it to the next level, available limited resources only. The budget is being done simultaneously. And let me inform Dr. Cho, the healthcare is being given priority. For that, the government has earmarked some good amount of 65,000 crore for to be spent over 6 years, called Atmanirbhar Health Mission, something like this. So the sustainable development takes place only when you move to collective happiness. We are competitive. We are trying to competitive, but our competition doesn't allow anyone else to grow. No, our competitive concept is you also grow, we also grow. You grow as well your capacity, we'll grow our capacity, and then we draw a line of satisfaction of what we could achieve. We never regret what we could not. We always capitalize what we have done it, looking to the resources one. Now, coming to this Coming to this good practice, sustainable development, sir, in India, good practice is being taught from day one. Every home is an example how you have to take care of your grocery, how you take care of your resources, how you have to maintain your social relationship, and how you have to maintain the community good. And that is what is a part of our culture, our ethos, as the case may be. We always believe one thing, that what is good for society is good for individual. Unlike others, what is good for individual is good for society. No. And therefore, not me, but my forefathers have done a lot of social development. One, if you turns out to be married person, if you meet good marine, you will set up some kind of community living center called Dharmshala, called temple, clear, called community eco centers, like the father of the nation Mahatma Gandhi has given the concept of Swaraj, that is, we rule ourselves only. And therefore, if you go by those idea, I can assure you there will be no place for dissatisfaction, there will be no place for distress, and there will be no place for what I can say the life strategies one. Rather, we learn to compensate each other. We will learn to complement each other. We learn to substantiate each other. We don't believe in fighting against each other, because we believe together we make a difference. We will make a difference, not an individual. So our system development model is based on community goal, community good, not driven by an individual. Next part. India, as I told you, is a country. India, as I told you, is a country where we can take the advantage of young populations. And therefore, this young population is ready to experiment. And because of that, India turns out to be one of the world's largest, sizable, sustainable market for worldwide. Because generation to which I am may resist some technical changes, but generations to my daughter and my son belongs to, they are ready to accept. They are ready to accept the change in technology. But in India, technology means not purely economic goods. Technology means what could be good for the community. For example, in Rajasthan, we had one scheme called Bhamasha Health Card. Now look at this technology. Simple card will make you aware of the doctor you got to visit. The government is going to meet medical expenditures. So for us, technology means what is good for the people at large has to be embraced, not good for individual. No, we still don't believe my first. No, we still believe we ourselves are the cornerstone of the growth. And also we are trying to explore the concept of this smart city, etc., though concept has failed miserably. Nevertheless, for last 5 6 years, the country has made enough of experiments for good living. And for us, what guide now? Because when I look at my country called India, we are far behind in World Happiness Index. We are at lowest step so far the World Hunger Index. So our development aims at A, how can we make happy? How can we remain happy? B, how early we comes out of the World Hunger Index. That means a lot has to be developed. Though per capita income would have increased manifold, but per capita income is not really income per person residing anywhere in India. Clear? The income also include the richest of Indians and the poorest of Indians, and we divide by the number, so we obtain this per capita income. Therefore, sir, I'm of the view the indicators of economic indicators are misleading to us. Average Indian is very happy, and that is not reflected in economic barometer. And therefore, we have to relook those indexes, those indicators to measure peace, pleasure, and prosperity in this society as compared to GDP, then fiscal deficit, then the revenue deficit, and per capita income, consumption per person. No, that is not the way to measure what we the country called India. And I believe, yes, we are all for it. We are all for it. The kind of inter faculty collaborations one. Today you're talking of missiles and super missiles. My knowledge of the past suggests India used to enjoy this kind of long distance missiles, or you can say aircraft, or etc., etc. Now all we need to look back. See, the one part that we'll try to appreciate is instead of looking to the Western countries, we all start to look back and look into what is there in our uh, uh, ancient kind of literature, and that has been a very well developed one. If we could have the universities like Nalanda and Takshila, clear, that shows the level of knowledge, the level of imaginations was used to be too high. So all we have to recapitulate one, and because of conference like this, always throw light what are we missing while we are walking on and on and on. And this is a place where we start retrospecting, looking back to understand what we missed out in the name of progress, and let us plug in the loopholes, make a system perfect, system to drive the humanity, to test the humanity, not against the humanity one. So I believe that the good practice, sustainable development are inherent need. We talk of the cultural confluence, we talk of the technology confluence, and we talk of what is good for humanity should be good for India and Korea and all the participants put together one. And I'm sure India surely will turn out to be the world leading torch, if not now, maybe 5 years down the line. The kind of progress that we are making at the grassroots level are unbelievable. These may not be captured. These may not be captured by so-called formal data, because India has one unique feature, and that feature is there is existence of large informal sector, and that informal sector never come into limelight so far formal reporting is concerned. I think my time was 15 minutes. I think I've taken my time. Well, I must thank you, Professor Santosh Dhar, for having this opportunity. Professor Joe, who has made me to travel South Korea while being at Jaipur only, and Professor Rajesh Shukla for giving me this opportunity to talk about this one, and my brother, Professor Pindra Dhar, who always inspired me to do something better than life. Thank you very much, sir. Once again, I am beholden to Professor Pindra Dhar, Professor Santosh Dhar, and all young colleagues. Sir, hats off to you. You enjoy the company of young mind, young people, a lot of energy, and blessed with your experience. Surely they are going to be torch bearer of this great university called Vaishnav University. All the best, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for your deliberation. I missed the deliberation of Professor Joe. I had a guest in my office, so I could not manage the time. So how are you, Professor Cho? How was your deliberation?
Well, I enjoyed the talk.
Okay.
Very nice to see you here, Professor Upinder Da.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we have another speaker. So back to who is coordinating, who is moderating this?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you, sir. Yeah, Dr. Rajesh, you have rightly shared that India is good. Indians need to be good. Actually, in the sense that provides transformation power, and the significance of India's role towards achievement of SDGs can be highlighted with the projection that 50% of the delivery of the global goals will come from progress made in India. So that is an important part, and we have to do a lot for achieving these global practices and continuing the good practices. Now, I would like to invite our final speaker of this plenary session, Dr. Prabhat Manocha, Associate Director, IBM India Private Limited, South Asia, to address the audience. Dr. Prabhat.
Yeah, good afternoon, and I sincerely thank you for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, Dr. Santosh Dhar, thank you, Dr. Supinder Dhar, Rajiv Shukla ji, Anand Rajevar, and the one thing which I could, and of course, Dr. Rupa and Parimita for organizing and scheduling all these things. And while I had been listening patiently for 1.5 hours, believe me, the two things which I could imagine, which I could imbibe in me, we always talk about technology. We always talk about how to leverage technology for the well-being of the citizen, how to take a next leap. And believe me, we have been doing so many things elsewhere, which I will try to cover. The other angle of it, when we say a good practice, it's not only about that technology. It is how you take or imbibe that technology and perceive that technology. That is what I had been learning, believe me. from 1.5 hours, we had never talked about technology, but what we understood is how the good practice has to be imbibed and how we can leverage. And I will just quote two examples here. Dr. Chow, you just now described about the design thinking and you're writing a book. And believe me, we have a practice in IBM who does a very deep design thinking workshops by which we will able to imbibe and come out with those innovative ideas which we can use for citizen. And being a, have been a practitioner in design thinking, but how you correlate that to Indian mythology and how they had been driving from past, it's actually, it was beyond my imagination. So thank you for giving that different perspective altogether. And fortunately, I have been in Korea twice, so I had gone through all those places, and it was very awesome experience. And once it was minus 25-degree temperature as well. So really looking forward for you in next week. And Dr. Kothari, another thing which I have learned from you is the passion and how it has to be done. Believe me, and thank you. And I was fortunate to be part of this session. The one thing which you talk about is a good practice. You talk about Bhamasha, and that runs on IBM technology. And I have been parted to Rajasthan, DIT on multiple other projects on blockchain, artificial intelligence, and all those. But how the how to plant a tree when somebody borns, and to incorporate that and linking it with Bhamasha is what about good practice, this what about our culture is. And you actually uh, described it very well, and thank you for giving this. Another thing which you talk about is the happiness barometer. How can we actually do that, and imbibing that into our technological framework which can give you an outcome. So it was really thought provoking. But I will keep my present in the discussion short because I may have a short time. But I would also like to, since I am belong to a technology company, I would like to trend about not from a from how the technology has been maybe. And when I say that, how the different trends which we are seeing and how those trends are imbibing into the technology which will imbibe into the development goals. And I would also like to highlight some of the development which has been happening across. And I'm sure the team who is present here, the students, research scholars, whosoever has been listening to us, would definitely get some level of encouragement and the way forward. We all have been experiencing the change in technology and when change in industry as well as the transformation, and it's quite obvious, and we all have been experiencing it, and we are parting to that. When it comes to earlier, we used to have a product where that used to deliver some business outcomes. Now it is outcome driven. Nobody thinks about what technology is or what is in the back end. We always think about how to leverage that, and more business models has been evolving. The increase in urbanization, 4.2 billion people, and 50%, it will be 55% of one world population would be living in cities. And in India, by 2050, we expect that urban population will increase as compared to rural population. And with this, 3%, although the cities cover only 3% of Earth's land, but 60 to 80% of energy consumption and 70% of carbon emission happens because of urbanization. And it's not that it's not bad. There are certain things which contributed to it. It's improved connectivity and communication. What we are observing is all across globe, the connectivity has increased drastically. With this, workforce are looking forward for a new and innovative ways to perform those, and we all had observed and seen how pandemic has bring those changes. We all have been in various sectors are working from him and delivering the best outcomes. Mr. Chow also described about the aging population, and we are seen in various countries across globe, in Japan, Korea are one where the aging population is being a concern, whereas in India the young population is high, which can contribute to a lot of things. Another thing which we are observing in a change in society, which can bring, is the mental health. With this, we already have a challenge to address such kind of.
जल्दी जल्दी कर भाई पहुंचना पर वहां पे जल्दी आ
So in this, we need to address mental challenge health. Data is being available, and we had seen a lot of analytical and predictive analysis is being empowered. Social media is being used all across and has changed the way which we have been working.
ओके मैं देखता हूँ
With this, we also find some of the technological trends. We all had seen in earlier days, we used to have a data center, we used to have a monolithic application which used to drive at different location. But now the technology has changed drastically. It's all development ops, microservices, containerization, and cloud technology. And by 2023, we observed that any of the customer may have multiple cloud service provider. So various kind of services is being used by various customers. With this, the infrastructure, the internet penetration has increased to a digital inclusion. And when I say that, by 2022, number of Indian internet users will get doubled. The half of all internet users will be from the rural India. 40% of internet users will be women. 65% of users will be more than 25 years of age. By doing this, what will happen is new source of data is getting generated. And when I say that, 10%, 10 times increase in the digital payment, 32 times increase in an IoT device by 2022, and 450 million online video conferences like this will happen. With this, the amount of data is getting generated, and which changes the way which we have been perceived. And how it has been perceived, the social media analytics to offer credit cards, which has increased in 26% CGTR with the big data analytics. There is an increased focus on digitalization all across globe, all across people are using more and more IoT based services, which has 971 IoT startups in India. There's an easy accessible on internet and other kind of things. With this, there's a 30% increase in digital content in native language. What we had seen in pandemic, government has worked extensively to provide the digital connectivity, and that digital connectivity is in the native language. And we see that 18% growth in Indian native language users in India in internet. With this, there's a 35% increase in overall hiring in digital technology. And data science is the most sought technology which everybody is looking at. Having this, there are four technological trends which we are observing, and we believe those are the trends which are going to take over the future. The first is engagement. When I say engagement in all industry, in all sectors, what we are observing is the engagement of technology with users has increased drastically. I just give you an example of artificial intelligence in agriculture. With predictive analysis, you can able to find out what would be the predictive crop production, or whether there will be an infection in the any disease in the crop. How can we do use technology to improve the production of the crop? This is just an example. In financial sector, various kind of fraud analytics technology will be used, and that will able to solve those kind of things. This is from an engagement of technology with citizen, and all of us has been parted to this. The second thing which comes up in engagement. When I say engagement, with mobile phones so easily accessible, the amount of data generated, the use of technology is in our hand. The IoT based technology, either it is image analysis, automation, banking, fraud, any kind of transaction, these all happens with the end user. It's no more related to any particular kind of technological trend. Whatever we are using, whatever we are doing, whatever we are inputting, that has become the data which need to get consumed to build a pattern. From a technology perspective, quantum is one which we're looking forward to, and we believe that health DNA security in terms of the encryption, quantum is going to be the next leap, which is going to take care, which can able to address lot of technological enhancement in near future in various industries. And in three distant days, there is another factor which is very important is like data biasing. The trust when we say like the biasing of data, the cyber security, the zero trust models, those are the security concerns also will get imbibing into that. With all these, there are a lot of technological innovations are happening. And when you say the good practice, with good practice, there is a lot of technological advancement which is happening. And I am proud to say that IBM has 9,262 patents in 2019. And there is total more than 1,40,000 patents. And unfortunately, I was also one of them. So we did those, and in all those, there are four areas in which we see that major leap in innovation is happening. One is in the area of quantum. One of the innovation which has happened last year is the qubits. The two qubits are entangled their frequencies much in a similar but not in the same fashion. With this, keeping frequencies unchangeable makes qubits more stable, hence scope of more application development. The security is another area. There was a innovation which has happened called homomorphic encryption, which allows data manipulation without decrypting the data first. Using this kind of encryption could greatly improve the safety of sensitive financial, medical, government data. Cloud technology is another which is taking a leap. We all had been experiencing it. Sometimes back, we had observed that the adoption of cloud was having a concern, but now it has become the de facto. Most of the organization, most of the government also has a mandate, and the cloud is giving the benefit. By leveraging cloud, we can able to use not only in infrastructure but the services which is built by many and can get consumed. The blockchain is another which can provide many innovative use cases. And of course, sir has mentioned Bhama Shah. In Rajasthan also, we have been working on the blockchain use case, which can provide immutable framework. The land registry is one which is a use case which we have been using, which can drastically change the way the citizens or the users has been performed. All these things, the innovation will happen using those technological innovation and the capacity building of this. So I just wanted to conclude in the way that SaaS platform, the platform of adoption in new technology, has drastically increased. The AI is not at all an hype which we used to think about. It's reality. The artificial intelligence is being used all across and in our day-to-day life as well. So there are two things which I wanted to conclude with. One is continuously learning and be relevant. So everybody need to learn new and new technology and have to be relevant and at par with them. And second is to keep innovating and build innovative models, because once we do that, we can able to leverage those for the society and for the goodwilling of the people. So with this, I just wanted to say and thank you to all you who has given us this opportunity to present this, and thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Prabhat. You have summarized the session, and you rightly shared that innovation in technology is required for the implementing the good practices, and it is a must for the capacity building. Dr. Rupa, we can take questions, if any questions to our panel members.
Hello, sir. Yeah, there is a question from Sarans Bhatnagar to Dr. Chow. What it makes Korea more ideal for semiconductor industry? Dr. Namji Chow.
Yes.
Yes, sir. There is a question for you. What it makes Korea more ideal for semiconductor industry?
Semiconductor industry required a huge and massive investment from the outset and very delicate handling of technology. And that was done by Samsung, SK, and LG Corporation. And many people interpret it from different perspectives. Some people say that Korean people are very good at dealing with details. Some people say that Korean people are good at making and maintaining and preserving clean space, and all that help. But I find the most important one is the urgency. The business executives and the government thought during 1980s when I was a master student. That time they decided to go into semiconductor industry, and everybody said that this is a crazy decision because it required a huge amount of investment, and there is too much for Korea at that moment. But eventually it proved out that without going into semiconductor industry, there is no a bright future of Korean industry. So they decided to take the risk, and it was successful. Now we are facing a second stage into a semiconductor because the most of the Korea, including Samsung and SK Hynix and LG, they produce largest share of memory semiconductors. But in terms of the production of non-memory chips, we are behind the competition. But without going into the non-memory chips, Korea cannot stay at the leading edge of the industry. So now these companies are again investing huge amounts of money to develop non-memory chips. For example, like, Samsung Corporation, Samsung Electronics only, we have about 10,000 software programmers at Samsung in Seoul, and that includes 3,000 software engineers from India. And this investment will determine the competition of the coming future. So investments and action and taking risk, to my interpretation, was the most important factors.
Okay, thank you, sir. So any more questions?
Yeah, Dr. Prabhat, would you like to add on this issue that, yeah?
Yeah, the semiconductor industry, if you may see, that's having requires a lot of other factors as well, and those factors are either in terms of technology to build in and the raw material. There's a company, the Taiwan is the famous and having the raw resources for that, whereas Korea has adopted those technology to build those semiconductor devices as an outcome. And I know that India also has been working a lot in order to build that um, as a service line by which we can able to generate those in India. It's like who takes that lead, and there's a separate use case by which how to adopt those semiconductor device. It requires a huge investment as well as technology to do that. And of course, Korea has taken a leap in order to do that. But of course, other countries are also taking forward and making those efforts.
So, sir, there is one more question. What are the implications for companies and policymakers for digital development in India? This question is from Rupali Bhartiya. Uh,
What are the implications for companies and
And
policymakers for digital development in India?
yes, sir.
If you may see, a lot of innovative ideas as well as the programs has been done by government, and as Dr. Kothari was asking explaining in the mornings that today the budget session, the more emphasis has given on healthcare sector. So similarly, government is also pushing towards implementing those innovative technology in those areas, and the organizations like us, the IBM, the large organization, they are also working on an innovative solution which can help citizen as well as government in a more technological, innovative way, in a hybrid cloud manner, by which we can able to deliver in a much better, sustainable, and user-friendly way by which you can use and imbibe those technology for those um, use case. And as I gave an example, the precision agriculture, prediction of the crop will definitely is a type of technology how to develop it and implement in various kind of scenarios, which will going to support uh, citizens, farmers, and other organizations. And of course, government is also taking a leap to imbibe that into a digital mission and the technology. So that's how the technology and how that technology is being used to implement those use case is a major thing which we all have been working.
Okay, thank you, sir. So there is one more question from an attendee. What are the various innovative programs that are run by government to increase the sustainable development?
I think there is lot of government initiatives on various innovative technology. There are various organizations who have been working, and I think academia has been connected to many of them who are working on those. There are a lot of hackathons, lot of digital programs which encourage uh, students to develop those innovative solutions and innovative uh, ideas to for the citizen beings. And we have been working on various hackathons, and I fortunate to be part of some of them who has developed some good solutions for the life being. And I know that academia also has been contributed and participating in this good cause.
Thank you, sir. There is one more question for you. Will there be boom in electrical automobile section in coming years in India?
uh, I think more from my side, it's a policy making to decide. But yes, I also being a user of, as we all are, of course, Niti Aayog has given their recommendation how the electric vehicle is going to take and transform it. And of course, I think it's not only an automobile sector. Technology can contribute in all the sectors, including automobile. And I'm sure that we have lot of brains, lot of technological, innovative brains among us who can take this leap further and doing that. Of course, I believe that yes, in various sectors there is a scope of improvement, and we all have been working towards it, and we all should contribute and will contribute towards that as well.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So there is one question from Dr. Namje Chow. There is an attendee who is asking about the Korean style of marketing. We need some more details about Korean style of marketing.
This is a very broad question. I don't think there is a Korean style marketing. There is only one marketing style, which is global marketing. Yeah, Korea is, in some way, Korea is doing fine in marketing their products and culture, but in other ways, Korea is still not very good at preparing the marketing programs. anyway, they are learning by doing and learning by experimenting, and most of the best practices by Korean companies is are experimented by big companies like Samsung, LG, and Hyundai, SK. And as I showed you, some computer game, software game companies. They have been doing very good marketing using network marketing technology, and it had become very popular in European countries and also in China. And some of the successful marketing case was in cosmetics industry. And this cosmetics industry marketing went hand in hand with Korean movies and dramas. And it had become very popular in Southeast Asian countries, and that how they collected reputation.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
basically, it's the star marketing, and then there is similar to the marketing practice in other countries also.
Paramita, can I ask two questions? I have two questions actually. Can I go ahead?
Yes, Professor Mandal, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is specifically for Dr. Cho, and the second one is for it's open to all the three panelists. Anyone can take that. To Dr. Cho, I have been to Seoul way back in 1993 to present a paper in APO, Asia Productivity Organization conference. And during that trip, I was there for about 7 days, and I had a visit to LG's plant. It's a little away from, I think, it's in the outskirts of Seoul. And in fact, those days, 1993, I'm talking about, connectivity also was poor. In fact, I had to take a flight from Mumbai to Taipei, from Taipei to your place, Seoul. After that, a lot of developments took place. What I saw in LG plant was, I was odd. In fact, the automobile industry in India also was just getting out of the Indian mode and coming into global. All that we had was Suzuki came in, and we had a 800cc car that time. Nothing beyond that. And things change, dramatically and drastically and very fast after that. Apart from having a direct flight from major cities of India to Seoul, we have had all the giants in electronics, in automobiles, and several other industries coming into India, investing. And then today, it's as I see it, it's much different from what it used to be in India in 1993. Unfortunately, I do not know what it is like in Korea. I would have asked the same thing if there was a Japanese panelist. So number one, the question to you is, how do you see the difference? You would be keeping an eye on the developments in India as well as, being a Korean, you know what is happening in Korea. So I want your comment on that. Have we in India really caught up with the developed world, like, maybe, Germany or Korea or Japan? This is number one. Let me complete the second question, and then if you can kindly answer that. Second one is to all the panelists. You see, 2015, the SDGs came out. There was a lot of fanfare. In fact, it picked up steam sometime after that, maybe a year after that in India. And I remember there was a rush for companies and organizations in India to sign the SDG, memorandum. A lot of signatories today we have in India, right from manufacturing organizations to service organizations to educational institutes and so on and so forth. If you really go inside the goals and the details about it, remember we are almost halfway through the target. Okay, it's 2021 from 2015. It's 6 years, and we have just about 9 years remaining. And the progress on the attainment of the goals or the objectives of the SDGs, in my view, we are far behind, and no great effort is being made to really achieve the goals. And I don't read anywhere also any criticism regarding this, except for the UN conference where this Swedish girl spoke very heavily against the world leaders. What are your takes on this? I mean, how serious are we, and what are your assessments? Would we really be anywhere near the attainment of these goals in 2030, sitting today and seeing what is happening today in the world, particularly in India?
That was for me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, of course, everywhere in the world, they have to find out their own way for the technological development and economic development. And, China has their own way, Korea had our own way, but still we can just learn from each other. So I think there are some implications we can learn from Korean experience because, different from European countries, Japan or the US, they were 100 years ahead of industrialization before us. But for us, we had to begin 100 years after them. And so we had to move quickly. So in that, during the development, in case of us, two things were very important, as I interpret. One was the role of the government. One of the questions that appeared on the window was that in case of Korea, the private research investment is very high, but why not in India? But up until after 1970, the Korean government established many science research institutes, science and technology research institutes, and those research institutes led product development and technology development, and they worked closely with companies and the universities, and they were playing the linking pin of technology transfer among these three players: university, industry, and the government research institute. And only by the end of 1990s, the total amount of investment into R&D by private sector surpassed the government investment into technology research. So only after the end of 1990, the government research institute redefined themselves that we are not going to perform product research, and we will put higher importance on more fundamental research that can be applied to product development by many companies. So the role has been redefined. And for small, medium-sized companies, still the government try to support in terms of tax exemption and in terms of human interconnection, encouraging small, medium-sized companies to establish their own small research center inside the company, or if a big research institutes help the small companies, then the government pay the researchers from the big institute so that the small companies can be benefited. So still, for small, medium-sized companies, they are struggling to develop their technological knowledge base yet, because small, medium-sized companies, their technological level is far behind the huge companies, multinational companies. And the second one is the motivation of people. Even though we have many people and good educated young people, if they are not fully motivated to grow, to become a better to obtain a better goal, they are not going to work hard. So to make them work hard, you need to show some exemplar. And some of these highly successful companies showed the good exemplar that the young people can think that, oh, this is something that we can obtain. This is a practical dream. So the Korea is a small country. Compared to the size of the country, these big companies were quite big enough, so they could contain large number of young students, so that the young people thought that, oh, if I try hard, I can find a good job at these nice companies nearby. And that has motivated the young people. But things are changing now. These big conglomerates, they are good, but young people, they have, now Samsung is not number one company these young people in Korea wants to go in. So yeah, the companies that these young people wants to go in is now the game companies and software companies and SNS companies, something like that. So the geography of industry in Korea is undergoing some structural change.
And even for the second question, the concern about the SDGs, real progress on the SDGs that's happening, particularly in India. Being signatories of Sustainable Development Goals hasn't it become a fancy rather than a real sincere efforts to attain those goals?
Yes, that is of high priority since 10, 15 years. And so we have achieved some technological achievements, and also the legal regulation has been established to guide the companies to perform more research that can achieve sustainable products and processes in those companies. And we also have a strong push from the government to emphasize that the sustainable development is not only the issue of the companies, you have to become a sustainable consumer. So all housewives everywhere in Korea, they have to follow the sustainable consumer behavior guideline.
Okay, thank you, sir. So I would like to thank all the speakers for answering the questions. And now I would request Dr. Anand Rajawat to give the concluding remarks.
Thanks, madam.
There was one question on the window asking that if Korean companies have an intention to bring nanoprocessor chip building fabrication technology plants into India, and sure they have. Samsung companies, they already moved away most of their semiconductor factories from China, and last week they announced that they will invest $30 billion into the US to make a new factory in the US. Also, they have invested new factories in Vietnam, and Samsung is seriously considering India as the next place to go in.
Okay, thank you, sir. Dr. Anand Rajawat.
Yes, thanks, madam. Very good afternoon to all. Dr. Namjae Cho, Professor, School of Business Management, Hanyang University, South Korea. Dr. Rajesh Kothari, Vice Chancellor, ICFAI University, Jaipur. Dr. Prabhat Manocha, Associate Director, Government India, IBM India Private Limited. Dr. Upinder Dhar, Honorable Vice Chancellor, SVV. Dr. Santosh Dhar, Chairperson, Sanmantrana 2021. Dr. Rajesh Shukla, Director, School of Management, and other dignitaries. First of all, I would like to thank all the speakers of the session for sharing important thoughts and information on various aspects of sustainable development goals and practices. Sustainable development is the need of the present time, not only for the survival of the mankind, but also for its protection in future. Unlike the other great revolution in the human history, the Green Revolution and the Industrial Revolution, the Sustainable Revolution will have to take place in different spheres simultaneously. Sustainable technologies based upon the use of non-renewable and fossil fuels for technologies can take advantage of renewable energies like the sun, wind, and biomass. The adoption of conservation and recycling practices on a wider scale can be moved towards cleaner and more energy efficient technologies. Therefore, to think about sustainability in the broader context and understand the underlying dynamics, it is mandatory to implement good practices and capacity building solutions to attain sustainable development goals. There is a need to be action oriented as the world is on its way to achieve sustainable development goals, which are a set of 17 social, environmental, economic, and technological goals, and governments, business, organizations, and civil society will have to achieve them by 2030. If we see the scenario of sustainable development in the era of information technology, parallel to the development of technology in its different fronts, and particularly about the various applications of information technology, another trend that has been consolidated in the organization is the search for sustainability. There are initiatives such as green IT, sustainable IT, and green software that combines these two elements, that is information technology and sustainability. All the popular tech trends like artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, big data, edge computing, quantum, robotics process automation, and other come to ease our lives. That is why average users as well as large scale enterprises pursue this innovation and changes. For instance, artificial intelligence has been the key to complex data analysis and management aimed at sustainable decision making in such areas as climate change, air and water security, biodiversity, conservation, disaster resilience, etc. Finally, during the session, Dr. Namjae Cho nicely described the Korean culture and the philosophy of the ancient Hindu culture in his presentation. He shared the thought of social convergence through extended collaboration and communication across cultures. He also told that this is the time for social innovations for the sustainable development. In addition to this, during the session, Dr. Namjae Cho provided interesting information and technological growth of Korea, also focuses on various social, economic, political, and environmental challenges and issues. He also provided important information about Hanyang University with lots of photographs of the university. He also highlighted the strength of Indian in learning, teaching, and thinking. During the session, Dr. Rajesh Kothari nicely focuses on various aspects of economical and sustainability development. He also highlighted importance of society and family in Indian context and the good practices for efficient and effective management and utilization of resources starting from at the level of Indian family. He also highlighted about socially responsibility and impact of happiness. Dr. Prabhat Manocha highlighted about changes and transformation in technology, also focused on upcoming growth in internet use and digital data. He also focused on emerging technological trends and four important areas for innovations, that is quantum, security, cloud, and blockchain. Finally, at the end, Once again, thanks to all the speakers for providing their valuable time and sharing knowledge towards achieving good practices in capacity building solutions to attain sustainable development goals. Last but not least, special thanks and congratulations to Chairperson Sanmantrana 2021, Dr. Santosh Dhar and team for providing me this opportunity and for successfully organizing very systematic and knowledgeable Congress. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So, on behalf of Sri Vaishnav Vidyapith Vishwavidyalaya, Indore, India, it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on successful conduction of our first plenary session of Sanmantrana 2021, a multidisciplinary international congress on good practices and capacity building for sustainable development goals. First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to all our esteemed speakers, Dr. Namjae Chao, Professor, School of Business Management, Hanyang University, Seoul, South Korea, Dr. Rajesh Kothari, Vice Chancellor, ICFAI University, Jaipur, and Mr. Prabhat Manocha, Associate Director, Government India, South Asia, IBM India Private Limited, for accepting our invitation in spite of their busy schedule. I thank all the speakers for taking your time to share your valuable knowledge and adding a great source of inspiration and motivation for us. I place on record my deep sense of gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Upinder Dhar, who is always a source of encouragement in promoting research activities in the university. He is the central force behind all innovative practices adopted in our university. Thank you, sir, for your constant support and guidance. I would like to thank my sincere thanks to Dr. Santosh Dhar, Chairperson Sanmantrana 2021, for her continuous guidance, support, and active involvement to make this conference a reality. My deep respect to you, ma'am. I would also like to thank our distinguished chairpersons, Dr. Rajiv Shukla, Director SVSM, and Dr. Anand Rajawat, Director SVIIT, for gracing this occasion. I would like to thank all the supporting staff and technical team for their constant support. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our audience for their participation and involvement to make it a successful venture. Thank you all for your participations. So now our first plenary session has come to an end, and now it's time for lunch break. And I would request everyone to join our next session starting at 2 p.m. Thank you all and have a great day.
Thank you.
Everybody should have lunch at their own pace.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.